The new world, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So worldwide, 184,000 coronavirus disease deaths, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, aka that Rona. You know what I'm saying? Now, over in the U.S., the worldwide epicenter, you actually have 46,785 deaths due to COVID-19. Over 10,000 of them actually coming from these nursing homes. You know, which speaks for itself because they feel like the elderly, the scientists already have said that the elderly are more susceptible to that, along with anything else, any other disease, right? But nevertheless, let's stay on track because over in New York, which is the U.S. epicenter, they have a death toll of over 15,000. Now let's go to the jails though, because in Sing Sing you had 6 prisoners deceased from COVID-19. That's the state prison, one of the state prisons in New York. Over in Cook County Jail, Chicago, 6 prisoners and 1 prison guard deceased. And Elkton Prison, 6 prisoners deceased. Over Elkton is in Ohio, whatever. So they're transferring hundreds out of there, or they're releasing them. Now, this comes as the ACLU is actually saying that they're underestimating these counts because they're not including the prison populations or the immigrant detention center populations. We won't graduate. Well, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So there's a situation in our federal government, specifically in the Department of Health and Human Services. You have Dr. Rick Bright, who's actually the top scientist over there. He actually was the director of BARDA, an acronym for Biomedical Advancement Research and Development Association. Authority, pardon me, not association, Development Authority. He actually said, put out this statement that basically said, you know, specifically in contrary to his directives, he actually limited the broad use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine that was promoted by the administration as like this cure for COVID-19, you know, despite a lack of scientific evidence. While he's all for, like, you know, trying anything, essentially, he's not gonna, you know, allow for like this unproven drug that's in high demand, make it open to the American public to use for COVID-19. So this guy is actually claiming that he's been removed from his post as director to the National Institutes of Health because he decided to do that. So he actually hired lawyers from Katz, Marshall, and Banks, which represents whistleblowers, and he's calling on the Inspector General of that department to investigate the matter. Greenwald graduate. The new world, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So interesting fun fact, Brian Harrison, who was actually a member of the Department of Health and Human Services since 2018 and was picked to actually lead a coronavirus task force, and back in January by Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, Trump appointee and all of that, right? But has public minimal public health experience, and this is because before he was actually part of the department in 2018, he actually ran Dallas Labradoodle and was known to actually be a freaking dog breeder. So, you know, just a fun fact. Nevertheless, you know, governors of states like Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, and you know, Georgia, like with Brian Kemp, they're like reopening businesses and beaches and all of that this week. Shit is opening back up. Trump has actually said publicly that he disagrees with Governor Kemp's decision to do so, but he's kind of like, hey, it's his decision. But meanwhile, you got the Justice Department and William Barr talking about they might sue states and governors for deciding to actually close businesses. So more fuck shit. This whole post should scream fuck shit going on with this administration. Greenwald graduate. The new world, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So there are a pair of scientific teams in California that actually put out this data and released it to the press, but it showed that blood tests that they ran found antibodies in people for the coronavirus at dozens of times the rate of infection of COVID-19. So what this basically means is that it concludes that COVID-19, most cases of it are mild, and the mortality rate or the rate of death due to COVID-19 is actually a lot lower than what is out here being reported. But researchers are very skeptical of this info due to the fact that, one, it was put out straight to the press, wasn't peer reviewed, and a lot of y'all conspiracy thinking fake fact checkers, y'all need to be checking y'all science and making sure that these scientists are being checked by other scientists, not by your homies and shit like that, because that's not going to get you to the real info. But also, this data was also based on a new serology test that hasn't been, basically tested or calibrated. It has an unknown rate of false positives. Green War on graduation. In the world, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So in New Jersey, actually, the director of the State Funeral Directors Association believes that the numbers of COVID-19 deaths are actually much higher than are being reported. Ever since the Center for Disease Control and Prevention actually on April 15th had changed the rules of how likely someone is to, the cause of death, someone's cause of death is to be COVID-19. Now also, or be reported as COVID-19. In that same breath, the United Kingdom, the Financial Times is actually reporting that their coronavirus death toll is actually likely to be double what it officially is, which is at 41,000. So that's pretty heavy. Nevertheless, over in New York, you have Dr. J. Mocha, who's actually he's the vice chair of the Mount Sinai Health System, who's actually saying he saw an increase in blood clots and like strokes with the peak of COVID-19 in New York. Basically how there was like people were catching these strokes, and actually it was blocking blood going to the brain. So these patients were being labeled as coagulant. Green War on graduation. The world, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So over in Germany, they have begun human trials of coronavirus vaccine testing. Now, they have similar trials going underway in the United States and Britain and in China. But health officials are warning, like, yo, at the end of the day, this is going to be a while, actually, like at least a year, even under an accelerated work schedule before a vaccine is made widely available to the public, even if it's possible to even get a vaccine for this shit, right? Keep in mind, though, in New York, you actually had 2 cats that tested positive for novel coronavirus, showing that, like, basically, like, it's likely that they got it from their owners. You know what I mean? These are pets. These 2 cats specifically were pets. And it's not known if they can actually give the infection to humans. Not the first case of a cat, though, in New York getting coronavirus, because remember, the tiger at the Bronx Zoo got that shit, man. Green War on graduation. For the New World, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So Nancy Pelosi actually canceled plans for a remote voting on the $484 billion phase 3, so-called phase 3 economic stimulus package for this coronavirus situation, after Republicans actually rejected remote voting. So they're actually scheduled to have like a vote of some sort today. And keep in mind, though, this is happening. Most of the money is really going towards the Paycheck Protection Program, or like the small business loans and grants that that did have a chunk set aside for it in the first $2.2 trillion package, but already got used the fuck up. Now, there were over, at the same time, 60 progressive organizations that actually penned letters to Congress, basically requesting that no more money be given towards the Pentagon, who already got $756 billion out of the budget for the United States or whatever. And it's just like, yo, it's clear that federal spending is not aligned with like the people's obligations and fears and worries and all of that shit. So, somebody got to, like, no more money for the Pentagon, no more money for war. I gotta fucking up. Green War on graduation. Streets report out of the New World, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report, man. There's got to be some connection between this meat or these meat packing plants and this COVID-19 infection rate, because over in Nebraska, you have in Hall, Dawson, and Dakota counties, they're actually seeing, these are like big meat packing plant communities, right? They're actually seeing infection rates 15 times higher than the rest of the state of Nebraska, and 5 times higher than the national average and COVID-19 infection rate. Now, I told y'all yesterday how Tyson, yesterday they officially shut down their pork plant in Waterloo, Iowa, after 90% of the coronavirus disease 2019 cases in Black Hawk County had actually been linked to that plant, which is actually their largest pork processing plant in the nation. Green War on graduation. What up, the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So, President Trump yesterday signed an executive order suspending all processing of green card applications for 60 days. Now, I told y'all already last week how immigration into the U.S. has completely been suspended. So this is fortifying that. The Los Angeles Times, though, however, is reporting that with this $2.2 trillion economic stimulus package that Congress had passed a few weeks ago or whatever, and where that has everybody supposed to be receiving their $1,200 checks right now per adult and $500 per kid, there are millions of people who are not going to get their checks due to the fact that they are married to immigrants who are using an individual taxpayer identification number, which is a number that the IRS gives to people who don't have Social Security numbers. At the same time, you have Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who's actually blocking immigrants, undocumented migrants, from being able to apply for the student aid that came out of the financial package. The Congress allocated $6 billion towards college students for food and housing, but only people who qualify for federal financial aid can do it. These are people who are U.S. citizens and some lawful permanent residents. Green War and graduate. The New World of the Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. Make sure you check out my official Instagram mixtape at @still_our_grinds. It's not on that pip, it's not anywhere else. You know what I mean? Straight heat coming in the form of posts. There's even a YouTube link where you can go and watch the whole mixtape through. You know what I'm saying? You ain't never even heard that before. You know, watch a mixtape. How does that work? Make sure you check that out, man. @ @still_our_grind on Straight Heat. You know what I mean? Prelude to the album that's on the way. Now, as far as these deportees that are actually leaving the United States and going to Mexico now has them going through a disinfection tunnel before they actually reach these border cities where these asylum seekers are supposed to remain, due to the fact that there was actually a deportee from the U.S. Last week that arrived in the Nuevo Laredo, in that border city, and there was a COVID-19 outbreak. Now, this is a country, Mexico that is, with over 10,000 COVID-19 cases and over 1,000 deaths. That's going on. Over in Honduras, you have a medical brigade by Cuba that was actually another one that was actually released into Honduras to help them with their battle against COVID-19. They have 500 cases, but already is weakened their healthcare system. You know what I'm saying? Made it fragile. Medical staff is completely understaffed, and they're being overwhelmed and overworked and all of that. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for the Black Files News Report. So, ever since over in Brazil, South America, Brazil, since the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic came into play, environmental enforcement agents have actually, been put to a standstill. Yet, satellite data still shows that deforestation has actually accelerated since the pandemic. Also in Brazil, probably even more important, just as important, because our motto, Green War and graduation, like the green is as important as the war. And the war on COVID-19 is real in a lot of places, even like Brazil, where their official death toll till COVID-19 is only at 156. But in the city of Manaus, they have the largest cemetery in the country, and they actually began digging mass graves to handle 100 burials a day, which is 3 times the rate that they are usually seeing at this time. That's like actually a death toll that's probably even far greater than what data is suggesting. Also in Amazonas, 100% of the hospital beds have actually been used, so they're overwhelmed as well. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So over in the motherland, Africa, the shit. Over in Uganda, there's a women's rights groups are actually saying that 11 pregnant women have actually died, and several children have died, preventable deaths, due to the fact that Uganda has actually imposed a transport ban for completely restricting travel throughout the country, and this is done while ambulances are in short supply. Like, Uganda can't even take themselves to a hospital or a doctor or whatever for treatment. So you have that going on. But more, over in South Africa, actually, the southern tip of Africa, you actually have this is a place that has 65 deaths due to COVID-19 and 3,600 cases in total of COVID-19. But they've actually deployed 70,000 troops into South Africa, the largest internal deployment of troops since '94, the end of apartheid. They did this to enforce their national lockdown, which actually began 4 weeks ago. Green War graduation. The New World Order Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So over in Singapore, it said that 80% of the COVID-19 cases are actually linked to these migrant workers coming from South Asia that are being forced to live in these, like, you know, these confined, like, you know, tight dormitories essentially, whatever. So there's a outcry against the government of Singapore about them not protecting the migrants in that regard, and coronavirus disease 2019 spreading like wildfire. Also in China, Li Zhehua, this was a journalist that was actually frontlining the initial outbreak epicenter in Wuhan, China. You know what I mean, frontlining the whole shit or whatever, and apparently he had gone missing for 2 months. Well, he's actually reappeared and actually said that police had detained him and forcibly quarantined. So you have that going on. And the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres actually is warning that, like, you know, the COVID-19 is actually being used for by these authoritarian rulers to, like, you know what I mean, basically extend their arm, take away human rights. It's a rise in populism, things of that nature. Green War and Graduation. For the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So keep in mind that the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, actually, you know, had called for all warring countries to cease fire, like globally, so that all countries can essentially attack the one enemy that we're dealing with, COVID-19, coronavirus disease 2019, SARS-CoV-2, that Rona, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you check out aka Rona, aka BFN World Broadcast number 17 at blackfilesnews.com/broadcast. You know what I mean? Or go check it out in the World Broadcast playlist on the YouTube channel for Black Files News. Nevertheless, even with that global ceasefire unofficially being out there, the U.S. is still bombing Somalia, and doing so more so than was done across all 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency. But now I will say, right before Barack got in there, that's where U.S. Africa Command, or AFRICOM, actually sunk their teeth into Africa. But that's another story. Nevertheless, you have AFRICOM saying that 39 airstrikes have actually taken place by the U.S. since January 1st. Now, this country has 286 cases of COVID-19, but, you know, it's severely untested. I mean, they only have one doctor for every 100,000 people in that country. So keep all that in perspective. Green War and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So on the international politics scene, you had U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo actually saying that it was Israel's decision on whether they wanted to take the parts of the West Bank that, you know, illegal Israeli settlements are occupying right now. Now, keep this in mind. You had the Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas that basically said we're not going to stand by handcuffs if Israel decides to annex any part of our land, basically, because they still consider that to be their land. I mean, back in November, you have 14 United Nations Security Council members that actually rebuked the Trump administration's decision to not consider these Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank to be illegal settlements under international law. Meanwhile, over in Palestinian-related news, you had at a Palestinian refugee camp in Wavell, Lebanon, you actually had one Palestinian woman who tested positive for COVID-19 and was then rushed to a hospital in Beirut. But this is a refugee camp that actually has 3,000 people in there. And, you know, people are warning worldwide, like these refugee camps, or even over here in the U.S., these detention centers for immigrants. A lot of times are really dirty, they're overcrowded, and they're warning that these are hotbeds for the spread of COVID-19. But we'll see how this plans out. Green War and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So over in Arkansas, we actually had federal appeals court that actually ruled that a ban on most abortions, they're gonna actually let that ban go. Most surgical abortions, because they deemed them non-essential, essentially. So I know I'm talking all over the place, but hear me out. Most abortions in Arkansas right now during the coronavirus disease pandemic is considered non-essential, and therefore will not be offered until further notice. Meanwhile, over in Texas, the ban that they had on all abortions, that was actually allowed to like ride by the appeals courts and all of that, whatever, is actually apparently up today. Like today on Wednesday, they're gonna start allowing for those procedures to go on again. So see how this turns out. Green War and Graduation.